And hi, everyone. I hope you're having a beautiful day and welcome to More Than Milestones. Today we have with us Abby Burd from Burd Psychotherapy to help us on our journey to becoming a more confident parent by understanding yourself better, by knowing your baby better, and knowing how to nurture you and your baby in this period of tremendous growth. And of course, to help you to enjoy your baby now as you also lay intentionally foundations for the future thriving child, adolescent, and adult that you dream for. We do this by sharing valuable information about development and connection, and also by helping you build your community of experts who you can turn to for questions and answers as your questions arise. And believe me, those questions will come and they will change on a daily basis. So it'll be really great to have this amazing community with you. So Abby, I'm so happy that you're here with us. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, my pleasure. This is really exciting.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. So we're going to talk about mothering the mother today. And I am so happy because so much of the summit has been about the child, and that's important too, but we have to remember our role. And I mean, I remember when I was preparing for my first baby, and I read books and I took classes, and a lot of it was geared towards pregnancy and birth. I didn't really think too much about what happened forward until I got them home. But I never considered preparing myself for the role that I was going to come into. And I think that it takes us all a little bit by surprise, and some jump right in and are able to handle it, and others are just, kind of go through this loss of, who I was and where do I go from here. And so I kind of want to just pick your brain a bit about what we should be thinking about as moms as we change this role, and what types of things that you see and how you help mother the mother.
Awesome. Well, I'm really excited. I agree with everything that you said, and I think this is so important in our culture. And so I'm really glad that you're building this community, because we don't have that village. We don't have that village of support that traditional cultures have. And this is the time when we need it the most. And this is when young families really need that kind of support. So I'm really happy to bring my perspective and my lens towards it.
Well, we're so happy to have you here. So where do we even start with this?
Okay. Well, just to back up a second, tell you a little bit more about me.
Please.
So
yes.
I'm a psychotherapist and a licensed clinical social worker. And so what that means is that over the past 20 years, I focused on mental health. And I don't know if you've come across this in your research, but postpartum mental health issues are actually the single biggest and most common complication of childbirth.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, and so that's super common. We look at postpartum depression is occurring in at least 1 in 7 moms, and postpartum anxiety is in at least 1 in 5 moms.
Wow.
And then even if you look at dads or other partners, we're looking at as high as 1 in 10 are having postpartum depression or anxiety. So I'm really glad that you're letting me talk a little bit about mental health.
Absolutely. No, I think it's so important. And like you said, I think this is probably something that that probably surprises people. It surprises me. And I think mostly because we probably feel like we shouldn't feel that way. And so we kind of hide it within ourselves and don't know how to handle.
That's a big piece of it, because everybody comes up to a new mom is like, aren't you just so happy? Aren't you just so excited? And you're like, yeah, but I slept about 1 hour and I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm freaked out all the time and I don't know what to do. But yeah, everything's wonderful. Yeah. And so many moms feel like nothing but like that happy smile is acceptable to say. And so I love that you're here and starting this, and so moms can say like, yeah, this is really hard and I need help.
Yeah. And I think that maybe people just kind of blame it on sleep loss, but it's more than that, isn't it?
It's more, there's a lot going into it. So if you look at on a biological level for birth mothers, there's a lot going on. Even there's actually studies looking at adopted moms, that there's hormonal changes going on even within mothers who aren't the birth mother.
Wow.
Yeah, and so massive hormonal drops. Pretty classically, if you look at 4 days postpartum, there's a major drop and shift in the hormones, and this triggers the baby blues and maybe 85 to 90% of new moms.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah. And so for many of them, it kind of naturally kind of dissipates after 2 weeks, but we're finding for a lot of moms, like as many as 1 in 7. Oops, sorry, I just lost that one. That's on the mic.
It's all good.
Yeah. So as many as 1 in 7, it's lasting more than 2 weeks. And so that's when we want to get more help, because it shouldn't be more than 2 weeks.
Okay. So what are some of the baby blue symptoms that we should be looking at?
Okay. So you can kind of think about it as a spectrum from just kind of mild and kind of normal, maybe being more tearful, maybe feeling more sensitive. But when it gets to be more extreme, if you can't sleep when the baby's sleeping because you're so on edge, like I'm scared the baby's going to die in the night, or I'm scared the baby's going to stop breathing, like I have to stay awake and make sure the baby's breathing. Those are things that are kind of actually natural and normal. We're given something that's so super vulnerable. It's this 7 pounds around their little, totally helpless, vulnerable creature, and we're solely responsible for it. If you're in a hospital or a birth center, there's nurses and other people around, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, you can go, bye. I don't know what to do. Am I allowed to be with this kid by myself? And so that's totally normal. And I think that's where in traditional cultures, there's like an aunt and a grandma, and there's so many people around to kind of help so that the mom can just sleep, maybe nurse, and that's about it.
Right. And we just don't have that. And although there are a lot of people that have family that come in and help right away, but then they leave.
Right.
I remember for me, I mean, coming from the hospital was one thing, but it was like, okay, my mom was there and she was back and forth, and obviously helping my sister who lives, close to me too, but she had come from out of town. But then I kind of felt that drop when she left.
And for some people, the birth partner might be home for 2 weeks from work and then back to work.
Yeah. So that can be really hard. So what can parents do? So those are the symptoms, but what can they do to help themselves kind of get through this?
Well, so are there going to be anybody watching this who's pregnant, or do you think most people are already have?
There may be some second-time moms who are pregnant. I think for most part, most of you guys who are listening have little ones right now. But yeah, I mean, obviously we don't just have one usually, or sometimes.
Okay. Well, obviously the more preparation you can put into it, the better. And so really kind of planning ahead, how are you going to have that circle of support? And so maybe planning ahead for who's going to be on your team, who's going to bring you food, not being afraid to speak out. And you might have friends who say, like, let me know how I can help. So let them know specifically, okay, can you bring me dinner on Tuesday night? And be specific. And then one goal I kind of gave myself and I kind of give my clients is to try to leave the house once a day.
Leave the house once a day. Okay.
Once a day. And sometimes that's a lot. I would try to go to like breastfeeding support group or baby yoga, crybaby movies, like a place where I wouldn't have to worry if the baby cried, and I could change the diaper there. I could feed the baby there, and it was just going to be easy. I just kind of had to get there. And sometimes leaving the house once a day is too much. There are definitely some cultures and some beliefs where you say you kind of keep the baby sheltered.
Right.
But I think if you're home by yourself, you're used to being out in the world, and then all of a sudden you're isolated, then that's problematic for your mental health. So getting outside is really important too.
No, absolutely. And even if it's just stepping outside in the backyard, I think
exactly.
Have a change of scenery and get some fresh air. No, I think that's really, really good advice. And, but what about all these working moms now? I mean, talk about a change in role. I mean,
oh, totally.
Not only are you preparing for baby, but you're also preparing to leave your job, and the stress that comes with like trying to transfer some of your responsibilities in your job to someone new, and whether or not they're really going to be able to fill in for you during. So,
Yeah. So at my private practice, I tend to have a lot of working moms. And so it's not unusual to have someone who has been working for at least 10 years, has achieved some success in their career, kind of and knows what they're doing. And we talked about the role change. And so then all of a sudden they're just like thrown into this brand new role of being a mom. And it's kind of like, I don't know what to do. This baby's crying and I don't know how to stop. And then a part of us feels like we were acculturated. Well, I'm a woman, so I should naturally know what to do. I should know what to do. So I'm a bad mom. I'm a failure as a mom. I'm a failure as a woman.
Right.
And I've worked with some women who have really high standards. And so maybe they're at a job where they're detail oriented and they get a lot done, and they achieve a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you have a baby, are you going through the checklist and being 100% perfect?
Right.
No. And so for a lot of moms, there's this internal tape of like not doing everything right.
Mm-hmm.
And so part of kind of being a support for moms and helping moms mother themselves is letting them know that they're good enough.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, I think that that's really important. And so kind of, obviously people who come to you may have a history of some, just they know that this is going to be a problem for them. But when you get someone after that point and they haven't been able to make that transition to really get that connection, how do you help them do that?
So let's see if I'm understanding right. So I heard a couple things. So one thing is like there may be people who have had anxiety or depression in the past. Was that a question?
Yeah.
So that's definitely a big risk factor.
Because that's a big risk. I did read. Sorry, I didn't make that clear. I know that that's a big risk factor. So if people know that they've had that in their past or they have a familial history, then maybe seeking out some assistance beforehand would be the best way.
Yeah. So I love to have someone come in and meet with me and see if we're a good fit, if they feel comfortable with me. Because sometimes, you could have a good therapist, but if it's just not a connection or just not a fit, then so having that in place before the baby comes is helpful. Mm-hmm. And definitely planning ahead a little bit. And so I love working with pregnant moms or maybe moms who have had one round of postpartum depression and they want to have a kid again. Like, how can we make sure that they're not going to have a reoccurrence of the postpartum depression? There's a lot that we can do to plan ahead.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. No, I think that's great. And, for me, when we plan ahead in our family, and we don't do it all the time, it's like, I wish we did it more often than not. But when I do plan ahead, whether it's a meal plan or an activity plan or whatever, it helps. It helps you just kind of know what's to come. And then the other thing that helps me too, even get outside. I mean, I have 3 kids now, and sometimes you have the best intention of getting out of the house and making those connections with people out there, but then something comes up in the house, oh, I have to clean that, or, oh, I need to make that dinner. Oh, I forgot to make that phone call. Oh, let me just do this email.
Or one child's sick. Or
one child, there's always just something that kind of keeps you. And then before you know it, it's too late in the day to do the thing that you had kind of wanted to do. And so for me, and I started this, partly for me, probably mostly for me and my child, but also for my clients as well, is I just started a meetup group. And so I make a plan. Like yesterday we went to the beach, and rather than just saying, hey, Kellen, we're going to go to the beach today, I said, we're going to go to the beach at 9:00 and we're going to expect other people there. So we have to be there at 9:00.
And then you probably packed your bags the night before?
Well, I got him done before he woke up in the morning. Okay. So everything was at the front door before he woke up, and so that we could get out of the house on time. And everyone else was late, which is okay. But it got me outside with him at the hour that I wanted to. And then
having that commitment.
That alone, that commitment, and the fact that I was able to meet that commitment just made the whole day beautiful. Didn't matter what happened the rest of the day.
Right. So you're also talking about finding your mama tribe and finding that circle of other moms.
Yep. And I did the breastfeeding group support thing, and it didn't work for me, whether it was timing or whatever. And so, and I kind of looked at some of the other Mommy and Me classes, and honestly, I've had a lot of people just say, well, my pediatrician doesn't want me to take baby out in public until they're 2 months old. And so, those first 2 months are crucial to have that connection.
That's a long time to
It is a really long time.
Be on in-house arrest.
I know, seriously, I know. So I don't really know if there's a lot of research that backs up that you shouldn't have baby out in public, unless there's a significant medical issue that your child is going through. I'm not aware.
So I think it comes from certain cultures. So some cultures say there's definitely a confinement. They might look at 6 weeks or 40 days. And so I respect that, but then maybe what can you do? Is there one person you can trust to come in and really wash their hands before they come to your house? So you're still having that social outlet. And then if all else fails, there is social media and talking on the phone, and, you know, you could message someone or have your group thread or your group, whatever it is, someone you can connect to at 2 a.m. and who might also be awake and in it. So there's definitely a value in that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, I mean, it's just, and I was talking about this with someone else too the other day, that, you know, I lost touch with my best friend when I had my baby, because I started having babies while she was still climbing the corporate ladder, and we were in two completely different places. So not only did I kind of lose myself, you know, my old self, obviously gained something amazing in becoming a mother, but I also kind of lost my best friend, because now what was important to me, sleeping and what color the poop was, you know, all these other things that come, she was like, stop talking about the baby.
Yes. I think you're bringing up a really, really good point, is that it's so, well, first of all, it's really hard to make friends when you're an adult. And so let's put us in like our lowest point or our most vulnerable point. And then all of a sudden you need to go make a brand new set of friends. It's a lot of pressure to put on ourselves, for sure.
It is a lot of pressure, you know, and, you know, but is there a way that we can help ourselves just stay connected with the old self, you know, whether it's putting it on the calendar, or how do you have people just kind of?
Yeah. So this is a really big theme that comes back a lot in therapy, which is how do I really embrace the new me? And so for some people, there is a period of really mourning the me that I lost. I see this especially, not always, it could be across all ages, but sometimes I'll see this in younger moms who might be in their early 20s, and they're like, I really didn't get to do like me. Like, I still don't know who I am. I don't know what I like. I haven't explored the world. And, you know, it is possible, but all of a sudden their plans have changed. Or I'll see this if it's an unplanned pregnancy, or maybe in a pregnancy that was a little bit more for the partner than themselves. Maybe they were a little ambivalent. It can be harder to really mourn that loss. And so I think it's every loss should be mourned and should have its time. And then the fun part really is that we get to define ourselves. We get to decide who we're going to be. And so we can incorporate really the best of who we used to be, the best of who we aspire to be, and who we are right now, and really become that person.
And if we haven't done some of that soul searching before about who we were, and you just kind of have this vague sense of loss, like how do you help people get through the who I was, let alone how I lost and where I get to go? I mean, sometimes that's just kind of over all of our heads.
Well, I think one thing that's important to talking to a new parent that's really like in the thick of it is just letting them know that the stage is actually going to go pretty fast. I don't know what the phrase is. It's the longest time and the shortest time, but I'm sure you've heard something like that. Like the nights are super long, but the years are fast. Something that is. Yeah, I think it does get easier.
The hours fly, or the years fly, but the hours drag. You know, yeah.
And so there's going to be time, but I think maybe just also empowering people to still have time for themselves, whatever that is. For some people, it might be going to exercise by themselves. As great as it is to incorporate the baby and small kids into your exercise, maybe it's just a little bit of time by yourself, or maybe it's going out with that friend who doesn't have a kid and forgetting you have a kid for an hour.
That's nice.
Whatever it is, I think. And then also a plug for the partners. I took this picture. I really want to post it on my social media. It's my husband and a friend sitting on their surfboards, and they were like out in the water just talking to each other. And my caption wanted to be like, what does this have to do with postpartum mental health? It's everything, because time is such a commodity. I'm sure if you have small kids, you get this. We have 2 kids and 4 small businesses, and there's never enough time for anything. But I still feel like it's super important that my husband has his time to himself, where he can do his thing, and that I have my time for myself.
Right. And so making that a regular thing, you know, if it's not a regular thing, get it
on the schedule.
Get it on the calendar. You know, just look ahead more than you ever did before. I mean, I can't tell you, you know, now with 3 kids, I can't tell you how many times, you know, 4 o'clock rolls around and I'm like, oh, what's for dinner?
That question. Yep.
How do I
like, can't we just stop eating? Like, still live? Convenient.
I have definitely gotten to that point. Like, do we really need to eat food? So, but again, having that schedule at the beginning of the week. And then for us, my kids being big enough to make those decisions too. So we'll have like a family meal and we'll say, okay, none of you like the same thing. I only think I have one meal where all three of my kids like it. And I refuse to be a short order cook. But I'm like, what I'm going to do is you guys each get a choice of what you want your meal to be on whatever day of the week. And we post it on the refrigerator so that everybody knows. And so maybe we just need to do that as ourselves as for mom and dad. Like, you know what? Monday I'm meeting Megan for coffee and you're going to have the baby.
Exactly.
You're starving. Like, I'm gone. No, I like that.
And that's really important. I sometimes see moms who overfunction and they're really doing everything with the baby. And then the dad doesn't feel comfortable with the baby, or if the baby cries, mom steps in. And that's really robbing the father-baby bond. And I'm being a little heteronormative, but the other partner. And so it's really important that both partners are involved and really are having that role in parenting too.
Yeah, no, that's really important. And then siblings.
Yes.
It's so much of what we're talking about. And sometimes I feel like when I talk about anything child health and mental and maternal health, we're talking about that first time parent. But man, the support that a second time parent needs, I think, goes through the roof. It's more than twice as hard.
Yeah. And because I all those things I love doing, like my baby and me classes, like I couldn't do once I had a toddler too in the mix.
Yep. No, it was really hard. And I remember my pediatrician after my first one was born, and she was 7 days old, and she was like, you know what? You guys need to have a weekly date night. Get out. And my husband and I looked at each other. We're like, we're not leaving the baby. No way. And so we didn't do it. And obviously we missed ourselves a bit as a couple, and we made it through, and obviously highs and lows, ups and downs, and gave each other, space and roles. But man, when we had that second baby, we have been doing date night every week for 8 years now.
That's amazing.
I know.
That's awesome.
When I tell other people that we do that, they're like, I've never had, like, amazing. Yeah. And so, but it was.
Well, you're really bringing up another big thing, is that 2/3 of couples find that their relationship satisfaction goes down after their first baby. Yeah. And that's part of that whole, like, we're on the back burner. There's a little creature that's literally going to die if we don't focus on the little creature. Yeah. But at what point can you be like, okay, little creature's going to survive with a babysitter for a couple hours?
Yeah. And we didn't figure that out for 2 years, but that's okay. we finally made it, but we've been doing it long enough now. If we do miss date night, we're off. It's like, oh my God, or if we come home from date night and the kids aren't in bed, we're like, no, I just want one night where I don't have to put them to bed.
We've done that before. Our event ended, like, don't tell my kids, but our event ended and we're like, oh, they're not asleep yet. We got to go stop and do something else first.
I know. No, we totally did. We do that all the time. It's like 8:30. We're like, they're not in bed yet. Like, let's go somewhere else. Well, I don't care what we do, but we cannot go home.
That's the point.
No, what we do, we all need those breaks and those connections with our husbands and wives and friends, and getting it on the calendar and getting it to be a regular thing. Like, we do this on Thursdays. We do this on Wednesdays. I just, it helped us so much. And I didn't do it until after my second child. And if someone had really shook me after the first one and said, my pediatrician said it, but if they'd said, no, seriously, you need to do this, I think that it would have been even easier with the first one too. So.
Oh, I think so. So Wendy, I love that you have the date night. Do you and your husband also have like a business meeting or a time during the week when you kind of figure out the details and the schedule?
Well, we don't. Well, really. I mean, I guess, but you know what? We don't necessarily need to have the details so much, because we have it worked out. We both own our own businesses, and he is in charge of taking the kids to school on Mondays and Tuesdays. And that is my full work day. And then I take the kids to school Tuesday or Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And that's just kind of a regular thing. And then, so I guess the one thing that we do